Welcome back, beautiful souls, to the Horror Pop Extravaganza.
What is up, all you beautiful souls, man? All you cool people out there in the world that like to hang out with us here at the Horror Pop Extravaganza. We welcome you with love, peace, kindness, calm, and a whole bunch of scary to go along with it. I am always Pops Ghostly, and with me today I have the Radiant.
Radiant. I
Radiant.
like it. Maybe a little deeper in the voice. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, but I'm still Duke Spooky.
Still Duke Spooky. Still Duke Spooky is here.
Little snotty Duke Spooky.
We're both a little under the weather. We talked about that right before we hit the record button. I think it is just that time of the year for a lot of people. I know here the weather has been doing back and forth, shifting kind of stuff, you know, from warm, and then today it was bitter cold, and it can truly ravage the sinus or the respiratory system, let's say. But we're here. We are here, snotty nose and everything, to bring you, speaking of snotty noses real quick, I looked at how much it would cost me to get a copy of the Garbage Pail Kids movie on VHS. It's about $200.
Really? What?
Yeah, some of them, dude, I know I'm going to have to come out of pocket at some point for a Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like, I ain't got that kind of money right now, but it's like a $200 one, and then Monster Squad is like a $200 one. Huge shout out to my client Pickle, though. I tattooed some Real monsters on him the other day, and his tip to me was Child's Play 2, 3, and 4 on VHS, so it completed the first 4. I still have to get Seed. That's not a super hard one to get on VHS, just because there's not a lot of people clamoring for Seed. You can get a decent copy for, less than $100, which is always cool. Anyway, let's get to this. We got a lot to talk about today. We have a lot to get into. Super fun movie. If you follow along, it's in the show notes or at the end of every episode. We try to tell you what's coming up in the near future, and today we are going back in time to the 2000. When was this? 20?
17.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
2017. We weren't all scarred by COVID yet. We're going to Jordan Peele's first cinematic outing. The one where I think he was really trying to prove some shit and establish himself as a filmmaker, which I think he did very effectively. And, most people know him from the comedy stuff, Key and Peele, up until this point. Now people know him as a horror filmmaker for sure. But up until now, he was, a comedian and all this stuff. And he says, hey, we've talked many times on the show about how comedy and horror are pretty much the same thing. Just one is scary, one makes you laugh. So I believe that people who have a deep understanding of comedy can translate easily to horror. And just like people in horror who have a deep understanding of what makes it effective can translate over into comedy. Get Out, 2017. Did you see it in the theater?
No, I did not.
I did.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, I was excited about it. It's still a movie that I really thoroughly enjoy. I just rewatched it before we sat down to record to make sure everything was fresh in my mind. Most people listening to this have probably heard of it. My wife had never seen it, though, right up until we watched it just now. Yeah, and I spoiled the fuck out of it early on.
No.
And we'll get to some of the reasons why. But yeah, I spoiled it on accident. I was like, oh, shit, you haven't seen this. Because her and I saw his follow-up to Get Out, the sophomore effort. We saw that in the theater together. I remember that. And then you'd get Nope, the Alien movie, which is, it's fine. I didn't hyper enjoy it, but I didn't dislike it either. And then you've got the newest one, Him, which I haven't seen yet, the football movie.
Mm-hmm.
Get Out made a huge splash. It was Blumhouse. Blumhouse was great about taking small budgets and making huge returns on investments, especially at this time, still relatively young in the whole Blumhouse cycle of life. Not like it is today where he's like, just take Black Christmas. I don't even care what the movie's about. Just fucking make it. Just call it Black Christmas. I'm like, fuck, dude, come on. So get into it, dude. Let us know. IMDb, who's in it, who directed it, even though I just kind of gave that away. Jordan Peele, writer, director. Pulls off a crazy idea. We've said you kind of need that combo of writer and director in order to pull off something wild, but why don't you give us all the rest of the juicy deets from the Internet Movie Database? Yeah.
For sure, man. Because Jordan Peele had a vision for this, but without these cats coming in and like doing like powerful performances, it wouldn't have been half as good as it
And
comes
a
out.
lot of people showed up, early in their careers to like, and I'll let you introduce all the individuals, but some of them have gone on to make some really fucking dope ass movies that I liked following this one.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
please.
sure. The lead in this thing, playing Chris Washington, is Daniel Kaluuya. Awesome. I expected to see
Powerhouse, dude. He is
total
a
powerhouse. Yes,
fucking acting powerhouse. That first time when he's in the chair and has to do the cry thing and he's recounting every
dude.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all day long.
All day long.
Um, you can't have a great movie without a great villain, and I think that Allison Williams, she plays Rose. Man, does she piss me off in this thing.
Dude, you want to punch her right in the face. She
Hate her
plays
so
it
much.
so perfectly. And she would go on to be the lead in Megan, both of the Megan movies. She'll show
Yes,
up in Blumhouse again. And she's done a bunch of other stuff as well. But yes, she plays again someone who could, when she near the end when she's on the phone and her face is just, but the emotion coming out and stuff. Just yeah,
yeah, so
everybody in
good.
this movie kills it.
One of my favorites, like side characters, Bradley Whitford. He's been doing it since the '80s, dude, and he's come into his own so much. I think like he's transitioned out of movies and did West Wing for a while, but I think he really like grew into something different after West Wing. He didn't just play like an ass hat anymore. Like now
Right.
he's like a real powerful ass hat.
Right. And we talked about him in the Cabin in the Woods episode where he gets killed by the
Yes, dude.
mermaid, which is so good. The fact that he's like,
That
oh,
was the
come
movie
on,
that turned it around for me, where I was like, "Oh, Bradley Cooper's actually like, or Bradley
Bradley
Whitford is
Whitford.
actually like
Yeah.
awesome." Yeah, yeah,
See, I loved him in Billy Madison though. Since that movie, I've always been a
right.
fan of, but he's like but he gets to do more of the comedic weasel thing, like doing
Yeah,
the but no, Bradley Whitford, great. Great talent.
amazing. This lady also amazing, Kathleen Keener. The '90s independent market wouldn't have been the same without her.
Right. 100%, dude. Yeah, she's a powerhouse too. But again, everybody in this thing I think does an amazing job.
Yeah. Caleb Landry plays Jeremy uh, Armitage.
Yeah, that's their name, the Armitage family.
Yeah, yeah, he was good too.
And he showed up. I can't remember who he played, but he was in one of the X-Men movies.
Yes, dude, he was in one of the X-Men
Yeah, and
movies.
he's an actor that I've seen pop up, on the screen. Anytime I see his face pop up, he always shows up. He's just like, I hope the dude
Yeah,
is able to get some more, opportunity and things like that. But this whole movie is so unnerving, but he is very unnerving. His presence is just icky.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Stephen Root, dude, brings it and everything from funny to serious. Like I love seeing Stephen Root pop up. I don't know if you just
Wasn't
saw the.
he blind in Oh Brother Where Art Thou too?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the record
he's like
producer.
the blind record producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so good in that, so good in Office Space. He just popped up in the Wrecking Crew as like the stereotypical
Dude,
like
he's
pissed
great in
off chief of
everything.
police.
Even back to I'll go back and watch old episodes of News Radio, and dude just slays, man.
Yeah,
He's phenomenal. Stephen
yeah.
Root is a treasure.
This is one of my favorite guys and shares the Lil moniker.
Oh,
Lil Ray Howard.
dude, no, it's Lil Rel Howery, not Little
That's what I
Ray.
said.
No,
Lil Ray,
you said Lil Ray
Little Rel, Little
Howery.
Ray Howard just sounds cute. But yeah, you're right. It's Little Rel Howery.
Yes, and so the only reason I corrected you so much is because I don't think there's been a comedian that has impacted me as much as this man has in the last like decade. I find everything he
He's
is
so
in,
good.
dude, he is just fire. Just money in the bank. 100%. I just watched this thing on Netflix that he's in. It's a whole hidden camera movie. And it's him and Eric Andre, Tiffany Haddish is in it, but it's all, big setups though, like a whole bar full of nobody knows what's going on and fucking yes, and Lil Rel Howery
I screwed
plays
you up
his
now.
yeah, you did. He plays his homie throughout the thing going on this road trip, dude, and I'd like to think some of this stuff in Get Out might have just been improv because the shit
I hope so.
he's a genius when it comes to improv.
And such a great character too
Oh,
in
dude.
this movie.
Yes.
He just he's so good.
Oh, you forgot
IMDb
about
says this movie's about.
no, you forgot about is it
Oh shit! I'm sorry.
Lakeith? He plays the first kid that gets abducted right at the beginning of the movie. I know his first name is Lakeith, but I can't remember
Oh, Lakeith. Yeah, I got him right here.
yeah.
Lakeith Stanfield. Yeah.
Stanfield, yes, which he would go on to do. Like he was the lead in Sorry to Bother You. Did you ever see that where he goes to the call center and gets the white
Oh, that's
voice and
such
shit?
a good movie,
He was
dude.
the lead in that. Yeah, dude, he's fire. He's another one who's
Yeah, he
just I want to
is.
make sure we highlight because that dude is a fucking champ.
Yeah, and
Okay,
that
let's hear
movie.
what it's about.
All right, so this movie, a young African American visits his white girlfriend's parents for the weekend, where his simmering uneasiness about their reception of him eventually reaches a boiling point. That sucks, dude.
That's one
Everything
way.
about
Yeah,
that sucks.
that's one way to put it. But I agree with you. I don't feel like that does it very much justice.
No,
And
but I get it. How do you
yeah,
explain this without giving it away?
right. And you're right. You could be like, hey, fucking, did you like the Twilight Zone? This might remind you a little bit of that. And he's always been very vocal about
Right.
his love of the Twilight Zone, specifically the episode Mirror Image that he would use then, to make us, or as inspiration for us. I shouldn't say use to make it, but definitely inspired by this idea of a doppelganger universe, where somebody could be living your life and doing shit and you have no idea. And I think he touches on some of that in Get Out. A lot of movie to unpack, so let's just jump right into it. Open up, we've got Andre walking down this suburban sidewalk. Hallworth might have been his last name. He's walking down this suburban sidewalk looking for somebody's house. He's like, oh, I said go this way. I can't find no directions, da-da-da-da-da. He's really lost. We see this car kind of pulls up. And it's, trailing him how you don't want to be trailed, especially. So I sat down today and watched this with a homie of mine who is black. And he's like, this is every black person's worst fucking nightmare right here. He's like, this movie just still makes me tense and
Right?
shit. And I'm like, I feel that, dude. Like, even not being a black person, but, being in those type of situations. And we actually talked a little bit about it. He's like, I've been in that fucking situation. Like, that shit's scary. The car stops. He turns around. He's like, fuck this. I'm going the other way. Gets going the other direction. And then all of a sudden, there's this dude in some armor mask running after him, chasing him down. And then, boom, we cut to Chris, who is our protagonist, like you said, played amazingly by Daniel Kaluuya. Kaluuya? I think that's correct. I'm not sure.
Kaluuya? I hope
I
we're saying
hope
that
I'm
right.
right. I hope I'm right because I don't want to disrespect the dude because, again, without him, this movie doesn't work, dude. He carries this, so well. He's at his apartment. He's got this cute little dog. His girlfriend's there, his, super white bread girlfriend. She's got her hair is all, and the hair is really important to me in this, and I want to just make sure because when she turns hard. So her hair's all, straight in the face, very innocent looking for the most part. Hey, we're going to go meet my parents for the first time. I don't know. Do they know I'm black? And she's like, yes, I wouldn't be taking you, if they were fucking racist and shit. Like, I wouldn't be doing this to you. Okay. My boy's going to come over and watch my dog while I'm gone. They have, so many great conversations throughout the course of this movie on the phone and in person. Again, like you said, every time Lil Rel is on screen, it's just gold, dude. This guy is, like I said, in the last 10 years, I don't think I've found a human being funnier than this man right here. Because every time I've seen him, he's just like, he's got that something, that just magic. There's something magic there.
Yeah.
So they pack up. They're going to go to her folks, live way out in the country somewhere. Like we said, his homie's staying with the dog. He's a photographer. We see a lot of his really cool imagery, urban kind of. It just has this aggressiveness to it, a rawness to it. And we see his stuff all over the place. So he's got his camera. We're driving in the car. Bam! Smack a deer. And it's like, oh no. And this is really symbolic. The dead deer is very symbolic throughout this whole thing. I saw it a ton, the trophies on not only on the main wall, but then throughout the house. There's all these deer everywhere, and so we have this deer get smoked. He's going over there to look at it. We have this kind of like, do you kill a thing? Do you not? But this death, like on the way there, they are met with death immediately. On the road, they were met with death. Then the cop shows up. She does her white girl savior thing and is like, how can you? Don't ask him for his license. You don't have any right to ask him for his license. And at first, dude's just like, yeah, here it is. Here's my state ID. I have one, but she gets really aggressive. She's very militantly going to make sure that everybody is okay with them being an interracial couple. And so she's yelling at the cop. Cop's like, well, get on, have a good day, whatever. They show up at the parents' house, and we have this Leave It to Beaver ideal, beautiful country estate. It's not even a manor, really. It's a manor on an estate. This property sprawls, one lone road that goes back there. She already warned him that her dad's going to say that he would have voted for Obama a third time, and don't worry about that. And Bradley Whitford plays this great because he does play that, trying to be cool with daughter's new boyfriend and gonna try and speak a little urban and do this things and make sure that I'm hip with the times and all these things.
But it's so cringy though.
Dude, it is. And that's what Bradley Whitford can do, He can do this thing, this weasel kind of below the surface. Not as good as she does in this thing. She pulls it off incredible up until the turn. The brother is very odd. He maybe plays lacrosse. I think he's walking around with his lacrosse stick a lot. Like, man, I bet we fight MMA when they're at dinner and shit. And he's like, I just want to MMA with you so bad. He's like, I bet with your physicality, you could just be a monster with the right training. You could be everything. He's already starting to get a little bit weirded out, but not as weirded out as when he starts to meet they have a groundskeeper. They drive by the groundskeeper and he kind of tries to wave or whatever. They just see him a little bit. And then they meet the woman who works inside the house, kind of a maid almost. And just everything is off. You can see it on the surface, the way they talk, their eyes, their mannerisms, and their big smiles and all these things. There's something wrong. We don't quite know what it is yet. First night, he's like, yo, I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. He's going to sneak out and goes outside. We get this crazy scene of the gardener running straight at him, which I remember in the theater, man. That I was like, oh, it was so good. And then
first time I saw that, it was really upsetting.
Yeah, and then he just splits off.
It's still upsetting rewatching.
Oh, dude, it was just as upsetting as the first time I saw it. And he's charging at him. He smokes a cigarette, goes back inside, and Mom's in her office, and she flicks the light on real quick out of nowhere. Very nefarious, just sitting in the dark. So Dad is a neuroscientist or a neurosurgeon. He's a neurosurgeon, and Mom is a psychiatrist who does, specializes in hypnosis. At one point, Bradley Whitford's like, I used to smoke 2 packs a day, and she cured me. Now if I think about the things, they make me want to throw up or whatever. She's sitting in the dark and clicks the thing on, like, come on in and, like, come into the parlor, said the spider to the fly. Come on in and sit down. And this is where he just absolutely acts the shit out of this scene, dude. Sitting in that chair, digging at the thing, having to recount this traumatic memory of his mother. His mother had died on the sidewalk. She didn't come home. He knew about it, but just sat and watched TV. But he was a little kid. He still blames himself for all this stuff. There really probably was nothing he could have done. But his mom, he still carries that she was out there dying and alone and things like this. And meanwhile, she's clinking on the bowl, talking about suggestions and things, and then throws him into this after he starts shedding tears. And he's like, why can't I move? Like, I'm paralyzed. She's like, just like you were when you were a little kid. And you're like, oh, being stuck like that. And then she's like, go down into I can't remember what they call it, the below level or something. There was a name for it that they gave it. Awesome visual effect on the big screen. I loved it. It reminded me of when I saw Snatch on the big screen and he gets knocked out and then falls through the boxing ring floor and into the... So good. So good. This reminded me of that. And he's just seeing her as this little image getting further and further away, suspended in this dark void. There's nothing there. And then boom, he wakes up all sweaty and shit and he's in bed and he's like, oh, this is crazy, you know what I mean? Hey, we forgot to mention that we're having the big family whatever get-together in day after tomorrow or sometime very, very soon. This is going to be happening. He talks to, I can't remember Lil Rel's character's name because it was Chris. But anyway, he calls him and he has this great line where he's like, man, you need to get the fuck out of there. He's like, He's like, well, she did some hypnotism shit. And he's like, oh, no, they're going to turn you into a sex slave. They like to hypnotize people, turn them into sex slaves. And he's like, man, you're crazy. But just, is my dog okay? Blah, blah, blah. I'll be in touch. We move from, I think this is when he might talk to the maid type woman, tries to talk to her. Oh no, he talks to the gardener. He's like, sorry if my exercises made you uncomfortable last night. He's like, oh yeah, you exercise just run in full clothing, dead ass sprint at someone in the middle of the night. That's it. But they're so weird. They're like robots almost. There's something
Yeah.
missing from
Very
these people.
Stepford Wives.
Yes, 100% very Stepford Wives. He apologizes. Him and her are going to get ready for this big thing that's going to be happening at the house. I don't remember what it is. It's some kind of event where everyone gets
It's a white people gathering.
Dude, and
It looks like
everything.
Easter, but it's not.
And these are the whitest people you've ever seen in your life. And I kind of love that. They were like
Yes.
physically so white, just like pale.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, nothing. He's taking pictures around the property. He sees old girl up in the window at one point being weird, like her eye flexing out the wrong way or something like that, going crazy. All kinds of weird stuff's happening around here. He charges his phone. He leaves his phone plugged in thinking it's going to charge while they go down. And this is when we start to get to the party. And the party is so uncomfortable. And I've been in some
weird,
uncomfortable situations in my life. I've been in situations where I brought a black friend with me into a situation where it was like, oh, okay, I didn't know these people didn't like black people till just now. This is fucking uncomfortable. Now, not in a long time, that was more in my youth and shit like that, but it did happen, and it was enough for me to remember, like, oh, fuck. This is still, kind of really exists. But these people are treating him almost like a showpiece, like an animal. Like, look at how strong you are. And the one guy's like, oh, I bet you ever go golfing? And he's like, once. And he's like, my hips just won't do what they used to. He's like, I love Tiger, though. I love Tiger. And this is that weird. And it's showcased so well that, even not in this context, but that white guilt maybe, or just that white trying to find some little to a connection to another human being. And it's like, oh, you're black, so you must like the black guy. Go ahead.
Right. I've been in the opposite situation where I've brought a black friend to hang out with a bunch of white friends, and then one of the white friends is like doing that, is like, dude, you know what? I really respect rappers and shit, and like,
and
I really like
that over.
Did you see Blade?
Right?
Yeah, it's like too much. You're just like, no, dude, shut the fuck up.
Just be a normal, because that makes people uncomfortable as well. And I was sharing with Butter, there's this really great movie called Tyrell that kind of deals with the same thing, but I think on a more even human level, without some of the bigger science fiction type elements. But yeah, even on a human level. And I was like, dude, Tyrell hits like a ton of bricks, man. It's one of the movies that gets you. But just came and went because it came out in like the boom of Marvel, you know what I mean? When that was kind of like huge right before Endgame and shit came out. So little indie films really weren't getting, but Tyrell is sweet. So they're treating him, how's your golf swing? I bet your hips are great. Let me feel your muscles. And even the one guy says, things come in and out of fashion. And right now, black is cool. This like dude who's wearing all black, and he's just like really a heavy set dude. And then he goes and finds what he thinks is a kindred spirit. He finally finds somebody kind of normal in Stephen Root. He's sitting over by this gazebo with a bunch of chairs in front of it all by himself. And he walks over there and he's like, hey, man, I know who you are. Like, I know your work and stuff. And he's like, he's an art dealer, but he's blind. And he's like, yeah, it's weird. He's like, I just have a really good assistant that can, tell me all these things, blah, 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 blah. He's like, these people are all assholes. They're this, that, superficial. They're all here for the wrong reasons or whatever. Like, I'm real. You can sit down and talk to me. So they have this conversation. At this point, he had already met Lakeith Stanfield a little bit. He saw him because he walks up when he's like getting a punch or a lemonade or something, and he's like, oh, what's up, brother? He's like, I'm so glad I'm not the only black person here. Your presence makes me feel a little bit safer and shit like that. And his wife walks up, and she's probably 25, 30 years his senior. And this is the same dude. So we know him from the beginning of the movie, and we know how his mannerisms, how he was talking, like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm turning around, get the fuck out of here. And now he's all dressed in this Banana Republic from head to toe, just like, hello, sir, how are you? And he even tells his wife, like, young Chris here was just telling me how comfortable he is seeing another black man here. And it's like, and he looks at him, and Chris has to sell this, Daniel sells this stuff with so much conviction just in the face. He's having to act with his eyes. His terror is not in words. He can't. He's almost, his voice has been stripped of him because he's the only person to hear him. When he feels like he can express to somebody else, like, oh, this makes me feel, safer, it turns on him. It's everything's wrong, and he's just stuck in this and doesn't even have the vocal cords to speak. And it's almost like I guess
That's what's great about rewatching this.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what's great about rewatching this movie. It has such great rewatchability because when you know what happens later, performance,
Right.
and you know what's going on, it's just like it gives me chills, dude. That's really, really well done.
And this is one I've probably seen a dozen times at this point. I've watched it quite a few times. I saw it in the theater. I watched it a few times because we were still doing those movie guys back then. And I know I watched it for the show and then bought it right when it came out. Watched it a few more times because I was just so impressed, man, across the board.
Yeah.
So these people, he's like, man, now I got nothing. He's like, okay, I'm going to go check my phone. Goes upstairs, and you get this really, like, when he walks up the stairs and they all just everything stops. Everyone stops talking. All these people and their eyes just kind of go up and follow the footsteps as he's walking around up there. And that's super unnerving. Because it's like, dude, yeah, I don't like that whatsoever. So he goes up there, his phone had been unplugged, and then the maid comes in and gives this really weird apology, like, I didn't want to touch your things. I accidentally knocked it over when I was cleaning the dresser, but didn't want to disturb it further by plugging it back in. And then she's like standing there, and at one point, like, one tear just falls from her eye, and she's like glitching out a little bit. He's like, man, this is crazy. Goes back outside, snapping some more pictures and whatnot, and snaps a picture of, and I can't remember the character's name, but Lakeith Stanfield snaps a picture of him, and he just goes full, like, his nose starts bleeding, goes full berserk, and he's like, get out, and starts charging straight at him, get out, and they're like, ah, and they all grapple him up. Oh, he had a seizure. That's what it was. You wouldn't have known he has a condition, and if he flash in the eyes, a camera flash, then which that's a hard one to avoid. I feel like, unless they really do just stay in that gated community. I was reading an article this morning somewhere in Apple News. It was a reputable source. I do remember that, but they were talking about how celebrities are now turning their homes essentially into impenetrable fortresses in so many ways, like just security, like you cannot get, and that's what this is. It's a group of people who have built that. They built this impenetrable environment because he's, been missing for 6 months up to this point. And I want to say, Chris, that's what he did. He called Lil Rel and he's like, hey, I think it's the homie. Like, this guy's here, man. Like, this dude we used to know from way back in the day is here. I seen him. He ain't right, though. Something's not right. He's like, I told you, fucking sex slaves. They're trying to turn maybe even regular slaves and sex slaves at the same time. And he does bring a comedic relief to this movie that I think helps out in certain areas because it is a very heavy. It's heavy. Yeah. It's a heavy subject matter. So he flashes him with the camera. They bring him back out, and he's like, huh, I'm so sorry, everyone. You'll have to enjoy the rest of the evening without my wit. I've just had too much to drink, and you wouldn't have known about the camera. I'll see you all later. It's so fucking bizarre. And he talks to the mom, and he's like, thank you, Dr. So-and-so. I don't know where I'd be without you, or some shit like that. This is getting way too fucking much. Daughter's like, hey, come on, Chris, we're going to go for a walk. And so they go out by this lake somewhere, and they're there for quite some time. And we see them out by the lake for a while. He expresses more about the trauma from his youth, about his mother dying. He starts to express to his girlfriend, like, hey, I think your mom did something else when she was in my head. This wasn't just, Something's not right. We need to get out of here. And she eventually gives in and she's like, let's go. I just love you so much. And she, just like Daniel, Allison, and forgive me, I don't remember her last. I'm disabled, MS. I forget things. I forget things quickly. So she again sells this so good as a very compassionate, caring individual who really loves this man. And she's like, I love you. And he's like, I love you too. And that's what breaks me is she sold him to the point where he's really like, I love you too.
Yeah.
You know? So meanwhile, before they get back to the house, we see this silent auction going on with bingo cards. And Bradley Whitford's up front, just like holding up one number, and they'll all hold up cards, and he kind of points like an auction, a couple, and then he gets up to what I'm thinking was $20 million, the way he did like 2 10s. And then he points, and we see Stephen Root's handler, I guess, whispers in his ear, hey, you won the thing. After he had told Chris that he's the best photographer that he'd seen in so long, and he had tried to be a photographer before, but just didn't have the eye for it and all this stuff. We're going to go, she tells him. Chris, let's go. Let's pack our bags. He's like, really? And we're kind of like, yes, get out of there. You know, please leave this place because you don't want to be in there either. You know, it's almost like Mother with J-Law in that scene where she's trapped, and I saw that in the theater, and that was so overwhelmingly just get me out of this environment. And we feel that in this movie. Just please, we don't want to be here either. We don't want to see what's going to happen to this poor guy. So they go start packing up their things. Another great moment, because as they're walking up, everybody's leaving and like, hey, see you later, Chris. It was nice to meet you. Da da da. He's just excited. They go throw all their shit in their bags. His phone's still not charged all the way. Go downstairs, and brother's standing in front of the door with his lacrosse paddle, you know, swinging it around a little bit. We see dad over in one side den, mom over in the other one, and they just start to circle like sharks. Just in closing, you know, slower and slower. Dad starts giving this exposition about being divine and how we are the gods who are just trapped in this mortal coil or whatever he calls it. Chris plays it so good here. He still doesn't raise his voice. He still doesn't. He's like, hey, you got them keys, baby? Like, we really got to go. And mom's like, what's the big rush, you know? What's the problem? And he's like, oh, Chris's dog got sick. And she's still playing it. And it's so, she makes me so mad. She plays it so good.
Oh, I know.
Right. And she's like, I'm looking for him, babe. And she's even got little tears in her eyes. Like she's, you know, amping it up that her family, like she didn't even know this was going to happen. We got to get out of here. And then eventually he breaks and starts yelling like, I need the fucking keys. Give me them keys. And then brother takes a swing with the lacrosse thing. He dodges out of the way of that. He's like, oh, I knew you were the superior being or some shit like that. And then she's like, oh, I got the keys right here, but you can't have them. And then kind of like does this evil smile, man. And you realize that she had been setting him up this entire time. He's like, oh no. And again, his acting, dude, and everything I've seen him in outside of this, he's just as good. He sells this desperation and realization that there's no way out of this. I have been snared. I've been trapped. I don't know what to do. And then mom hits the couple tinks on the tea saucer with the little teacup, and he just falls straight out. Boom! And then we see him falling into the forever beyond or whatever it is, and their faces are over top of him, and you know it's just getting further and further away, and he's kind of floating. Swap over to Lil Rel is starting to worry about his friend for good reason. He's like, I haven't heard from my dude. I don't know what's going on. He starts looking up people's names, doing his detective work and all these things. And I love, he's like, I'm with the TSA, you know, I'm with the TSA, motherfucking A. But he's putting all this work into it. He doesn't go to the cops quite yet because he keeps getting Chris's voicemail. Chris wakes up in this 1970s den game room of sorts. There's a foosball table, a dartboard. There's one prize deer right on the wall in front of him. And I loved this because for me it was symbolic of them both being trophies. The deer was a
Yeah.
trophy and Chris was a trophy. And he was nothing more than that to them. It was, something to be hunted and something to be taken for myself. And I loved that visual representation of them having to kind of look right in the eyes of each other. I thought it was cool. We get this old, cool TV. If I could get this TV, I'd watch everything on that. I'd find a way to wire Netflix to that shit because it's the full piece of furniture, that used to be in your grandma's living room. If you were a kid in the 80s or 90s, your grandma probably had one of these monsters. This video pops up and it's like, oh, hello. If you're watching this, then you're part of I can't remember what they called it. And I meant to look it up too, because there was a name or a word they used when they showed the butterflies. Coagula? I think it was coagula. And they kept using this reference. But it's this older white dude who's talking about this process that they had developed over so long, where essentially they can take two individuals, put them on an operating table next to each other, open their brains up, and put the rich, whoever, benefactor, put their consciousness, for the most part, everything about them, into a younger, more viable, better body. While this is the worst, imprisoning the original consciousness in the back of the mind. It said you'll be like an audience. You just have to watch. You won't get to, there's a little piece of you, because he said they can't disconnect the central nervous system. That's part of it. And there's a little bit that hangs on in order for it to work right. But the idea of being terrifying, dude.
Yeah. Being a prisoner in your own body.
Yes. Like literally trapped in your own body.
And I watched my uncle die of Parkinson's, and it was the same thing. He was there, dude, but he couldn't express it, and he was just trapped.
I
in his
think
own
that
body.
would be even different, because I've read a lot of stories about people who broke their necks and stuff and somehow overcame, and still with no use of anything still had vibrant lives and things like that. I do think there's a mindset thing there. But this, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody's battle with that shit either. I can't imagine, I really can't imagine.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But
this is so much more insane that someone else has taken your vehicle.
Right. It's like somebody else is saying all the things. It's like you can do that, but you have no control over what everything else is going on. You just have to watch like a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like you're watching a movie theater through your eyes, and that's it. But you have no control. Yeah, in just floating in that weird suspended animation. Are they just stuck there forever? But either way, the video gets closer to the end after he describes the whole process, and we see the family. We see Bradley Whitford, a younger version, his wife a little bit younger, and then the two kids, the boy and the girl, when they were small. And then you've got his dad was the one in the video talking and everything. His dad and his mom are there. So now he's down there like, oh, fuck. I got to get out of here. Lil Rel goes to the police department or I don't know. I think it was the police department. And he's like, look, this shit's going to sound crazy. Great moment, because we need a breath in this movie every once in a while. And this gives us our breath that we needed, because right here it's like, oh, we're really getting dark. This is getting really scary. So he goes in there and he tells the whole story, and this lady's like, what? And he's like, I don't know. Listen, hypnosis, sex slaves. He's like, they might not all be sex slaves, but some of them are sex slaves for sure. He was so set on this sex slave shit. But he gives the exposition about Andre being gone for the last 6 months. He's disappeared, shows the picture, and she's like, oh, well, doesn't look very disappeared to me. And he's like, no, this is our dude from way back when. Nobody's seen him. Oh, he just married a white woman, this and that. And then she brings two other people in there. He explains it all again. And she's like, don't ever say I didn't do nothing for you. And I'm like, dude, that's great. I totally get it. So they don't really believe him all that much. He's going to keep doing his own homework. Meanwhile, homie keeps getting hit with the ting-ting, then wakes up once and he sees Stephen Root in the video, and he said the procedure takes better if both parties fully understand what's going to happen. He's like, so look, I want your eyes. I want your abilities. I essentially want to, and when we talk, I think a little more about the meaning of this, but I want to strip you of the one thing that makes you you, and I want to take that away from you. I want to take your identity while not taking anything else that comes with it. I just want a piece that will benefit me. I want to use you as a piece to benefit me. And Chris is sitting there like, oh shit, like this is not good, dude. He's trying to bite the things off. He's trying all this stuff. And we see him, though, he keeps grabbing because when he was a little kid, he was tearing up whatever he was sitting on the end of his bed, his footboard or something. He was like scratching his nails through the wood. And he's tearing up this leather furniture that they got him stuck on. And at some point, we don't see it, but he tears out a little bit of the cotton and stuffs it into his ears, which I don't know if Jordan Peele did this, intentionally, but I love it. I'm like, picking cotton saved his life. Take that shit and turn it on its head in a cool way.
I never even thought of that. Yeah.
I was like, take that shit. And I don't know. I could just be, reaching at straws. But I was like, that is kind of cool that, something that was originally killed people, you worked yourself to death. Now you can use it as a tool against the people who made you do it to begin with. Yeah. So it was like freeing bondage from that.
There's so much symbolism, dude, for sure. Yeah, I missed it because I'm dumb.
No, you didn't miss it because you're dumb. But like I said, I've seen this probably 12, 15 times because I really do. And I pick some new shit up, I feel like, every time. So he stuffs it in his ears. We see this really creepy underground Resident Evil, the mansion, like the Ashford mansion, where he's got Stephen Root in, this big light on it, and he's standing there all ceremoniously with his gloves on. We see him cutting Root's skull open and removing the dome piece. Really, really cool effects. And then we see the son going to get Chris from the room. This is when the transplant's going to take place. So he goes to get Chris. Well, Chris had put his things in his ears, the cotton in his ears, so that he didn't hear the ting, ting, ting and fall under the hypnosis. But he just pretended the whole time, and he's sitting there, and then he busts old boy in the head with a fucking croquet mallet. Bow! Like, beat him with his own privilege. Bow! Just puts him down on the ground. And again, maybe I'm reaching a little far, but I loved the symbolism of a trophy killing him with a trophy. Because he kills the dad with that deer off the wall. Because it was a big, like 10, 12 point buck. And he just runs it straight through him. And he falls down. Boom. We get the cliche of the candle falling off of the... But I kind of like it. There's so many old monster flicks that I really enjoy that, the candle falls and it lights the place on fire. But dad's down. He's down for the count. He's dead. Place is starting to smoke up. Chris runs upstairs. He's getting ready to take off, and he sees Mom. And Mom's in her office, in such a tense moment, man, when they both look at the little saucer, because she's like, all I got to do is click the thing, and he's out. And he's like, if this bitch gets that thing, I'm out. And he looks at it, she looks at it, and he just barely gets there before it throws it across the room, and then it, crashes all over the place. And I'm trying to remember now how he killed Mom. How did Mom die? Because he does kill her.
Does Mom die?
Huh?
I thought he might have knocked her out. I thought he knocked her out, but I didn't think he killed her.
No, because she dies. I'm pretty sure she's dead, because that's when the son shows back up and attacks him and starts trying to choke him out. And again, a really great scene. Yeah, because the kid runs up after he kills her. Somehow she's dead.
Yeah.
And he's going to open the door, and the kid grabs him from behind, and he keeps kicking the door closed. Like, this white dude won't let him leave, like just holding on to him for dear life. Starts choking him out, and it's so uncomfortable that he's counting. He's like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, as he's got him in this, headlock or something like that. And he keeps reaching for the door he reaches for the door one last time, because every time he'd done it like 3 times up into here, and he kept kicking the door shut. So he reaches for it, goes to kick it shut, and right when he goes, he stabs him right in the neck with a letter opener or some scissors, not in the neck, in the leg, with a letter opener or some scissors or something like that. And then he goes down, and then he commences to just mutilate his face with his foot. We don't see it, though. A lot of it is off camera. I'm sure it's because it was a low budget, and I don't think the gore was really that's not what this movie about. If there would have been one moment of hyper gore, it probably would have taken away from the tone of the rest of the movie, even though most of us would have been fine seeing that guy get his fucking head kicked in, because he was not a very nice human being. He grabs the keys from him, gets out to the car, gets in the car, starts taking off, and Lil Rel had called and talked to her And he's like, and I love, he's like, he puts it on mute and he's like, you fucking evil bitch. He's like, you're a genius. He's like, she's an evil genius. Cause she's sitting there, and I talked about her turn being so good, and her turn is with her hair. As soon as she shows the keys, she puts her hair up into this ponytail, which shows this like longer, more, just menacing face. And she goes full blown stoic. No emotion, no nothing. He's taken off in the car, and that's when the woman, the maid from inside the house, jumps out in front of the car like, ah! And he's just like, boom, crashes into her. Has this moment where he's battling his internal dialogue. He's like, because his mom, the same thing happened. Apparently she had been hit and died on the side of the road in the cold. And he's like, I got to try and help her. And he goes over there. They get into the car, and the daughter, being the only one alive, she heard something. She was listening to headphones upstairs in her perfectly white top, in her milk that she will not taint with the cereal, which is such a, like, it's got to stay pure white. Like, it's just this, it's so uncomfortable. Okay. She takes the headphones out, realizes something happens, grabs this hunting rifle, and she's got the full get up on, the boots and everything, grabs this hunting rifle and says, Grandma. And that's when we realized that Grandma was put into the maid, because we forgot about that. He found a bunch of pictures of her with all these other people, with women, with other men that looked intimate, like they were, couples. And she's like, oh shit, Grandma. And then Grandma starts freaking out in the car, and her wig falls off, and she's like, you ruined my fucking family and everything. And he's like, what the fuck, bitch? They crash. Grandma goes flying, gets out of the car. Or no, she shoots the mirror off before he even gets out of the car. He's going to get out of the car. Grandma's all busted up. She's got this, 30-06. She's shooting from a ways. This thing's scoped out. Ping! Takes the mirror off. He gets out, goes to walk away. Ping! Hits the tree next to him. Bark flies everywhere. And then she's like, get him, Grandpa! And then here comes the gardener doing that run, dude. And that's what's sad, is they kept him in training because he was the one in the mask, I think, that was, and they did allude at one point that the brother would bring people in as well, but that his means were more aggressive or something like that. And so Grandpa's running after him. Grandpa tackles him down. Boom, gets him. Flashes. Grandpa's killing him. I think he's choking him out. And that's when he flashes him in the face with his camera light. And then we see this like light, and you can almost see the void, the little screen or something. Really cool how he filmed it and how they accomplished it. And she comes up with the rifle, and he's like, let me do it. Give me the rifle. This guy too, though, his whole face changed. Everything about him changed, and we could see that it was the real person. It was that little bit of the cerebro or whatever that was left, or the prefrontal, I don't know, whatever, however they described that they could keep a little bit of this person in the back. He was now able to drive a little bit. He gets the rifle from her, immediately turns and blasts her right in the stomach, and then just locks another one, just puts it right under his chin, and like, I can't. Like, do not ever put me back in that thing again, dude. It was that bad. Now he walks over to her and starts choking the shit out of her for a while. He's almost going to kill her, but then still just doesn't do it, which I like. He doesn't, all of his murder in that was more survival. It wasn't, nefarious or ill-intended. It was just, I need to get out of here, and I need to get out of here right now. Mm-hmm. So now you've got dead grandpa, you've got dead grandma. Our girl is sitting there, and all of a sudden there's cherries and berries in their eyes. And it's like, oh no. And he's on top of her still as the cops pull up. And she's like, help, help. And I wanted
to jump in and help. Let me get her.
Dude, everybody did. Because I mentioned it earlier, that scene with her on the phone where she sells so much emotion with no physical distortion. She just sells this evil, and you're just like, oh, dude, you are vile. So she starts screaming out, help, help. And then Lil Rel gets out of the cop car. Chris is like, fuck my homie. And he's like, yep. He's like, I told you not to come here. He's like, look, I didn't want to have to tell you, but I told you so. You know, I told you. He's like, how'd you find me and shit? He's like, I'm the motherfucking TSA, bro. I'm the TSA. And then we get a title card written and directed by Jordan Peele. I want to say right up front, I prefer the alternate ending to this movie. It is the reason that this movie does not get a 5 for me when we get to our ratings. And I'm just going to say that right now. And are you familiar at all with the alternate ending?
No.
Dude. So, one of my favorite movies of all time is Night of the Living Dead.
Hmm.
And partially it is because of the tragedy that is Ben's death at the end. When he survives everything, dude, and then just to get senselessly shot, like there's another one, bullseye. And it wasn't even the guy's fault, they were hunting down zombies, they didn't know. But still to see that. And the alternate ending, it really is cops that show up when he's choking the shit out of her. And he takes the blame for everything. And the movie ends with him in prison with Lil Rel coming to visit him. But there is this kind of hopeful note where he's like, it doesn't matter that I'm here because I stopped them from being them. Like my sacrifice was okay. I'm okay with it knowing that they're never going to take another person and they're never going to do that. For me, that ending just hit so much harder. But I listened to an interview with Jordan Peele and he's like, I just don't think people were ready for that ending at the time. In the West, we love a happier ending. We don't like shit to be super somber. So we get the more comedic ending where he's just like, I'm the motherfucking TSA. Does it take away from this movie for me? Not at all, but I do encourage everyone. I brought it up because I encourage you, check it out. It's on my digital copy on Apple TV, but I'm sure if you have a physical copy anywhere, or you can probably just look on YouTube, alternate ending to Get Out. I'm sure you can find it somewhere, but it's super cool. And I think changes, a lot of the tone of the, kind of makes you feel bad in ways that you should fucking feel bad. Whereas I think the ending in the theatrical release gives you a little bit of a pass to kind of feel, a little better at the end. Before we rate, why don't you just overall thoughts, man? Lil Duke Spooky, let those beautiful souls know what you think about Jordan Peele's Get Out.
I love that this movie has so many fucking layers to it, and that it hit different in 2017 than it hits in 2026. It gives me white guilt for sure. I think that was part of the intention of the filmmaker, but also in the way that American History X plays both sides of it so well, where you're like, holy fuck, like he's a racist piece of shit, but he does have some points,
right?
And then he goes to prison, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, everything you thought was wrong. It's just one of those things.
That prison scene, the bathroom scene is one of the most intense scenes. Oh, dude, in all of cinema.
That whole movie, I say they should show it in high school because they should just show you like what a fucking asshole
when they fucking ping his head off the wall right after they fucking rape him and he's bleeding all out his booty and they just it's like reading Shawshank. Like I don't know if you've ever read Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption, but that gets into it pretty nasty. Yeah, and you'd walk around with you'd shove a bunch of toilet paper up your ass so people didn't make fun of you when you came out and your clothes were all bloody. Yeah, they call it the prison tampon.
Fuck.
But yeah, right. Right. So
but yeah, I mean it works on so many different levels. It reminds me of a Twilight Zone episode. The set design of it. I think trying to make people uncomfortable is really fucking hard to do. Mm-hmm. And not play it to the wall,
not pandering.
That's what I was trying to say. Not pandering to your audience, really being like, my audience is educated and they're going to come with me on this journey. Because if this movie missed, dude, this movie would have missed so bad. But it didn't. It hit. And I think that gives a lot to Jordan Peele and his talent and the fact that he's not just a one-trick pony, that he can do silly comedy shit and then he can do really serious stuff. I hope that he doesn't get pigeonholed into just doing horror, because while I really like his horror stuff, I think there's more for this dude can show us. And being in horror and comedy, unfortunately, like you said, they mix so well together, but they also never get the respect that they deserve as serious art. They're just genre, and that sucks. You have to go to these extremes to turn horror into art.
Right. You really do in a lot of ways. And I am, okay, so out of 5 terrible, twisty teacups, how many do you give Get Out?
I gotta give it 4 because if I give it 4.5 or 5, it's like being like, "Oh, you guys, I want you to meet my black friend." You can't do that, dude. So you got you got to give it a 4 for being a great
You are,
fucking movie, but it's still not Jaws.
you are funny. You are funny. I am going with a 4.5. I was going to give it a 5 out of 5. But
Can't do that.
listen, oh, I can do it. I feel fine about it. But if that original ending had been on it, it would have been a 5 for me because I'm a big, message behind the message guy. I love to look at how cinema is a vehicle for voices to reflect the state of the culture at the time or the zeitgeist. It's like, does the zeitgeist influence us? Do we influence it? Is it back and forth? Who knows? You mentioned American History X. I mentioned Night of the Living Dead. Horror has been a awesome vehicle for talking about stuff like this. Whereas I think American History X is much more on the nose. I think it's a really powerful statement, a very powerful social commentary. Whereas Night of the Living Dead, they had to kind of hide some of these ideas a little bit. It's why Rod Serling created the Twilight Zone. He said, I can't tell the messages straight out because nobody will let me say it that way. They won't let me on the air. They won't let me do any of that. So I hide it in science fiction stories, but people are still getting the same exact message. It's not black versus white. It's alien versus human. It's human nature being exposed in these terrible ways. And for me, Get Out does one of the best jobs with not shoving it down your throat, not pandering to you, but challenging you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, especially as a white man, to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, am I complicit in any of this shit? Because it's not even, for me, it's, not even so much the taking over the bodies, but it's almost the stripping away of all the culture for profit or for personal gain. It has nothing to do with I see you as you are. I see you as this unique being. It's I see you as a means to an end for myself. And some of that still goes on today. People get used and abused all over, the Hollywood system. Unfortunately, it is that. It's like, I need this specific thing. But in this instance, he shows it on every different level that it can happen, from the extreme to the awkward to the just barely uncomfortable. We see all of those layers of this just kind of fucked up way of looking at the world and how we perpetuated that for so long. And, it doesn't really even point the blame at one particular person. It says, this is a generational thing that has been going on for a long time. This isn't something but we need to address it. We need to look at this and say, hey, this is not okay. So for me, 4.5 would be a 5 with that other ending. Jordan Peele, in my opinion, this is the best one. I really like Us a lot, but I feel like you mentioned, maybe he should try something else. His horror stuff to me has had kind of diminishing returns as they've gone. Nope was a ton of fun. I haven't seen the newest one yet, but to me, Nope doesn't compare to Us. Us is pretty close to Get Out, but I still feel just doesn't have that same powerful slap in the face, even though there's a ton I love about Us, and I really enjoy that movie. So, I can't remember what we have next week. I should have been smarter and pulled that up. But I will be sure to put that in the show notes unless Lil Duke Spooky can get to it for me. And with the movie now wrapped up, you know what time it is, all you beautiful human beings out there. It is time to pause. Can't get my hands around. For the living. This week was easy because of the movie we're talking about. It's amazing that, and this movie I think was and I even almost stopped myself from bringing this pause for the living because I'm taking this movie, that was about white people appropriating black culture and making it about white people. But with all the shit that's going on with Jeffrey Epstein right now, even though I guess at the base level, what was happening in this movie and what was happening on that island is the same thing. It's the reduction of human beings to nothing more than a product, something to be used, something to be owned, a trophy to go on the wall. you know, essentially. It is something that has no value outside of my plaything or, you know, my need. And so much of this movie is about that. And so much of what we're seeing in the real world right now is about that. It's about we need to do better. We can all do better about seeing the value in each other, about seeing the full value in each other, you know, that people have worth just inherently. They don't need to do anything. They don't need to produce anything, nothing. And there's value there. There's value because every human being is potential. Your potential to do a lot of crazy dumb shit or your potential to change the world in the best way possible. And we've seen great examples of both of those throughout time and history. There's people who really screw it up on a royal level, and then there's people who are like, yo, you change the world. Usually you don't hear about the people who change it in a great way, though, because I don't know, the bad just gets the most attention. That's just how it is and how it's always been. But us, man, as human beings, all of us together, I'm talking to every single one of you, I am talking to myself more than I am talking to anyone else, is we carry these judgments and these biases around with us. You know, we look at something and we make these default judgment decisions that happen so fast we don't even realize it's happening half the time because we've kind of programmed it, you know. They're called biases. They're the things that kind of naturally occur and all this stuff. And we put groups of people into different categories in order to make our own life more manageable and make it more navigatable. You know, right now in our country, I would say the biggest divide is on the political spectrum. And there are people in this country now that if they see someone with like a Trump bumper sticker, will be like, that human being is a piece of shit. I know that for certain. They don't even know these people. You have no idea who this human being even is, but you've just labeled completely on them, they are a piece of shit. It goes the other way. If you see somebody walking around a park protesting, wearing a bunch of rainbow shit and a fucking dog collar or something like that, you'd be like, that's a fucking liberal whatever, piece of shit. They don't know anything. They're ignorant. They don't blah, 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 blah. It's both sides. We see it all the time, you know. But that can be applied to so many different areas of life. I mean, you might even be at a sporting event. You see somebody wearing the other team's thing and you're like, oh, I despise that person. You know what I mean? Like, it does go that far sometimes. I despise that person. Any of those actions by any of us is reducing the human being down to one specific thing. It's reducing them to one specific thing and using the halo effect to say, because they are that thing, that means the whole entirety of that person is a piece of shit. There's not an ounce of good in them. There can't be, because they support that fact. So when we can reduce people like that, that's exactly what was happening in the movie in so many ways. It was like they are just, and they weren't even reducing them. They were saying in some ways they are the superior. They are better athletes. They just have better genetics. And it's fashionable right now to be black. It's cool to be black. So they reduced them to, or I guess elevated them, but elevated them to just specific things. You know, this was a human being with something so much trauma. Right. And the things that they wanted. You know, they were very selective because we saw her on the computer like top NCAA prospects. And she was going to go, you know, start hunting people down because they were looking for, you know, a good build. And in this case, it was a good eye. I like to think that they preyed on the trauma in some ways, knowing that the mom, if somebody had deep trauma, they would be easy to manipulate the same way maybe our government likes to manipulate people based on the trauma of living conditions and things like that. I don't know, but it is that reduction of people to something that is, you know, a single side, a single element, a single thing. Like in many of the urban areas in our country, you know, they're looked at as just, those are voters. They're voters. What do we got to do to get them to vote? Not their people struggling. Not these people, you know, we do have some good programs that help people out, but they're trying to get away with all that shit. So fucking blows my mind. But they're just seen as like voters. That's all that they are. They're a constituency or whatever. We got to try. And we talked about it maybe last week or a couple weeks ago that the only way Batman said it, I'm not trying to change the world. I look in and I change myself. And that's on us. If we can see, and it, for me, it really is only meaningful when you do it towards an uncomfortable situation. It's
Yeah.
easy to be nice to people who care about you. It's easy to be nice
Hmm.
to people who have the same beliefs as you. It's easy
Hmm.
to be nice to people who are helping you out do something. It's harder to be nice to people who you don't know, who are of a different mindset, maybe are saying things just to try and get you riled up. Because there are people who thrive on that. They thrive on pushing
Hmm.
buttons. You know what I mean? They thrive on just let me get under your skin. I don't even believe what I'm saying, but I know it's fucking you up. And that makes me happy because I have control over you like that. It's, yeah,
TRUMP.
right. But yeah, there are those people, who I think thrive on that. But I do believe there's a lot of us out there who would like the world to be a little bit more calm, would like to, just exist, knowing that we're going to die. Life is like a fart in the wind. Bradley Whitford even said in the movie when he's looking at the fire, he's like, fire knows exactly what it is. And it's a breath, it's air, and then it's gone. It does its thing where we are the gods, we are the divine. And I think, that is a megalomaniac mindset, is a godlike mindset. And we've seen that in history. Roman history, they were like, yo, worship us like gods. We're taking down these statues of your gods and we're putting up pictures of us. And you're going to worship us because we are divine. We are, and this family, this rich elite, these Jeffrey Epsteins, these fucking Bill Clintons and Donald Trumps and all these people, you reach an elite level of class where you buy yourself out of the law. And that's when stuff gets really scary. And you see these fucking, people just start looking at other human beings as nothing but, almost like an animal. They're just something to be owned, something to be traded, something to be a commodity. There we go, a commodity. Human beings are just commodities. And if your mind is like that,
Elon Musk is literally trying to create the technology to do this. He
Mhm.
is putting neurochips into people that change behaviors.
Yeah, dude. And essentially, I read in the
I
little
mean,
fine print, it was like, oh, yeah, and we could download your full consciousness out of the chip when we're done.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to do that.
No.
But we, and it's easy to dismiss movies like this off as science fiction. But as the viewer, I feel it's our responsibility to dissect them and figure out what these people are trying to say. It is why The Twilight Zone is my favorite TV show of all time. It's why I've seen every episode, countless times. Some, I bet you I've seen 100 to 200 times, little 20-minute episodes, because it's so profound. It speaks to the human condition that we have to try and change in a real way. It's like, that is me. I see myself there. I see anger, I see rage, I see all of these different, lack of understanding, all these different things, and things that I have been myself. I'm not saying I'm innocent of all this stuff, but now that I am aware, do I just continue on like I did? Or do I try to make a change that's going to hopefully perpetuate a cooler future where we eventually get to Star Trek, we forget about fucking money, we put all of our resources into science and exploration and all these things, and maybe one day, man, it's my dream, get us to the Star Trek place because, yeah, I don't know. So anyway, you got anything else you want to add, brother?
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying, and you just got to think about, realize that we're all kind of the same, and we all need the same things. I've said that a lot.
And you're right every time you say it.
Yeah, we all just need the same things. We all want the same things. We all just want to be accepted, and none of us feel accepted.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, man. And just stop and think how many of the things that you really think and really feel are yours, and how many of those things were just put there by something else, whether it was your parents or your grandma or grandpa saying something shitty and inappropriate, or some movie you watched.
Or if one thing, let's say you're on the highway and you get into a terrible accident and you spend the rest of your life never driving on the highway again. You know what I mean? You get, let's say, raped by some white dude at a fucking college party, and now for the rest of your life you're haunted by this, but you make this decision that everybody is bad because one thing happened to me. And that's not good either. It's tricky, man.
It's complicated, and it never can stop. You can't ever be like, I'm there.
Right.
You got to always be like, I can always learn more. I can always push harder to love and to put good things out in the world.
Yeah, and don't beat
No matter how
yourself up
much
when
we're
you
doing.
don't either, though. You know, everybody's gonna stumble and
Totally.
fall, but yeah, absolutely.
It's like a wave, baby. It goes up and down.
That's
up
right.
And down.
Okay, did you figure out for us what we got next week?
No, I didn't.
Totally forgot, dude. Next week is my interview. Da, 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 big surprise to everybody with Jake Casey, and we're going to be talking about Payne's Branch, which is this little independent horror movie that he did. I looked up some stuff online about it. It seems like it's, people dig on it and shit like that. Found footage thing about a bear. That's all I really know. It's like found footage and you're out against a bear. But please tune in for that one. I love the interview episodes. It is a true joy of mine. Like, I feel humbled when I get to interview people on this show, and they take the time to talk with us and stuff like that. So super excited about that. And then after that, we will be getting back into our regularly scheduled program with The Sixth Sense. It's going to be me and B Money. B Money going back to
B Money,
1999, which was a great
Don't spoil it for
year,
him.
dude. Oh, I won't. I'll make sure I don't. It was a great year for movies, dude. 99 was a really solid. I feel like we had The Matrix. Lord of the Rings was right on the cusp. Like, maybe that was 2000 or 2001.
I think Saving Private Ryan was in there.
There was a lot. That was 1999. But The Sixth Sense will be after the interview episode, so we got some cool ones coming up for you. If you could like and subscribe, that would be super helpful to us as we continue to try and grow the show. And leave your thoughts about Get Out in the comments down below. We want to know what you think. I'm going to start reading them on the show, and I actually got my editing stuff all hooked up, so I'll be able to start putting the comments in the video. So you know what? Your name could be up there in lights and shit like that right in the video if you want to do that. So until then, I've been Pops Ghostly.
Lil Duke Spooky.
And we will talk to you next week.
No! 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 Horror Pop Extravaganza.